L'immense potentiel social et économique d'Internet reste largement inexploité malgré 30 ans de croissance régulière. C'est la conclusion d'un rapport de l'Union internationale des télécommunications, l'agence onusienne spécialisée dans le secteur des TIC, publié à l'occasion de l'ouverture de la conférence mondiale de l'UIT qui se tenait à Kigali du 6 au 16 juin dernier. Pour sa grande messe annuelle, membres de l'organisation, délégation ministérielle du continent, opérateurs privés étaient au rendez-vous pour plancher sur le thème « Connecter les non-connectés pour parvenir au développement durable ». Autrement dit, l'enjeu du numérique en Afrique.
I'm Bilal Jamoussi. I am currently the chief of the Study Groups Department in the Standardization Bureau of the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, meaning that I look after the international standards development for all aspects of telecommunications, from fiber optics to video coding to digital transformation, smart cities, Internet of Things, use of AI and machine learning in various aspects of the information and communication technology fields. The ITU is the United Nations Specialized Agency for Information and Communication Technologies. It's celebrated 157 years this May, 17th of May. Africa has been one of the most prominent players in the ITU in terms of needing the assistance and support of the ITU, but also in providing us with the requirements of standards, of development, of radio spectrum use, of new satellites that are being launched in space from African companies such as Telnet, for example, to have nanosatellites to be able to use them in digital agriculture. Job creation in Africa is an area that is of critical importance to us in ITU. The use of technologies for the digital transformations opens endless opportunities. Today we talk about digital health. So we're talking about applications, for example, to use artificial intelligence for health. We have a group in the ITU working with medical doctors and ICT practitioners to benchmark those AI for health applications. Another area of digital transformation is in the context of digital financial services. Mobile money is something that started in Africa. M-Pesa in Kenya was an innovator to use mobile phones to have financial transactions. This is an area that we have been investing heavily in ITU to provide the standards and regulatory framework to enable the telecom regulators and the central banks to have the enabling environment to deploy financial services. And that's another job creation opportunity, because once money flows electronically, we can have all kinds of applications, all kinds of new payment systems, microcredits, enablement of women to participate in the economy. So that is another area of digital transformation that is critical. A third is in the context of smart and sustainable cities. Today, technology can enable cities to become smarter and more sustainable. We have a standard in the ITU on the key performance indicators of smart sustainable cities. We collect about 130 data points about the city, and then from the analysis and audit of that data, the city can develop a master plan so that they can build new services that are intelligent and sustainable. And that's another area of job creation, because of all those services are digital applications and they're software based. So the engineers in Africa need to localize to the language, they need to localize to the reality of the community or the city that they live in, and that's another area of job creation. Another is in the context of AI for road safety. Road accidents are still the #1 cause of death in the world. In the ITU, we have an initiative on using AI for road safety with the UN Special Envoy on this topic. And the idea is to encourage low and medium income countries to collect the data about the accidents, where it took place, the car, the driver, how quickly the emergency response came. And just from those 4 basic data points, we can put some AI and machine learning that helps the city planners and transportation and police authorities to better manage the roads and avoid accidents to a large extent. The use of AI in natural disaster management is another topic that we're working actively on, and that could create significant jobs. There are many satellite images that are freely available today. In addition, with IoT, we can combine the satellite image with sensors to predict and better manage natural disasters, such as forest fires, landslides, mudslides, and so on. So there are endless opportunities, but the challenge in Africa is that connectivity is still a problem. In the world, there is 3 billion people who are not connected, 700 million in our continent. We have to work very closely with our member states from the ITU to connect the world. Our mission in ITU is to connect the world. We are here in Kigali for the World Telecom Development Conference to further enable and enhance the connectivity agenda. We had the Partner to Connect initiative, where we had more than 200 pledges from around the world to connect. We have the Giga project with UNICEF to connect the schools. We are engaging youth. We had the Youth Summit here just before WTDC to engage the youth in the use of ICT, and they are the most creative. It's the digital generation. So we want the youth to be more engaged in this endeavor. And all of these aspects are really about providing economic growth and better well-being for our citizens around the world, and especially in Africa.
Une conférence a souligné Paula Ingabire, ministre rwandaise des TIC, qui se tient à un moment crucial pour réfléchir à l'urgence dans ce monde post-Covid où nous ne pouvons pas nous permettre de laisser qui que ce soit sur le côté. Et si l'Afrique a progressé en matière de développement du numérique, à l'image du Rwanda, qui a placé le numérique au cœur de son modèle de développement avec les résultats qu'on lui connaît, reste un certain nombre de défis majeurs, à commencer par l'accès à Internet pour tous, ce qui demande des infrastructures et donc des investissements importants. La seule alternative, les partenariats publics-privés.
My name is Walid Mathlouthi. I'm originally Tunisian. I recently moved to Geneva with the ITU as the head of infrastructure. Previously, I was in California, Mountain View with Google, where I spent probably 15 to 20 years of my career doing mainly infrastructure projects, connectivity related, fiber architecture, network deployment, and then I took on a role to deploy networks in Africa. Recently I made the move and I made the decision to join the ITU as an international organization, hoping to be able to have a larger impact and helping more the developing countries to come up to the 21st century and embrace the digital area, fully the digital area, by improving infrastructure and investment in these countries. There's no other way to be able to tackle the infrastructure challenge other than going through partnerships with the private sector. So that's why we initiated for the first time this year in this conference the Partner to Connect initiative, where we're trying to gather a coalition around solving the connecting the unconnected problem. So we're trying to have a platform where organizations, private sector, companies, startups, government could pledge and present their pledges to solve the problems. And then with that coalition, we could start a movement to tackle the infrastructure problem. It's a very challenging problem because the remaining 2 billion that are not connected, they are the most challenging to connect from a financial perspective, but also from a geographical and population density, remote areas, rural areas perspective. It's really very challenging to build that last piece and to cover those areas. So we need to be innovative. We need to come up with new solutions. We need to be able to think out of the box, and we need to be able to work all together to tackle that last piece.
En attendant, un autre challenge se jouait en marge de la conférence, la course à la direction du Bureau de la normalisation des télécommunications de l'IUT, dont l'élection aura lieu lors de la prochaine conférence de l'IUT du 26 septembre au 14 octobre prochain à Bucarest. Et l'enjeu est de taille. En cas de victoire, la présidence sera assurée pour la première fois par un Africain.
The Union is a Pan-African organization, one of the special organs of the African Union that works in the field of ICTs in Africa. For the last 23 3 or so years when the African telecommunications and ICT sector was liberalized. We've seen tremendous growth. Most of our markets are now open to competition, and that has brought in a lot of development in the ICT sector. Some of the challenges that we are now witnessing is how to ensure that ICTs contribute meaningfully to our development, especially in the agricultural, education, health sectors. And there's quite a lot of integration of the ICT projects that are being undertaken in Africa, and agriculture, finance, financial inclusion of those that have not been banked before, education. Now, in particular, the last 2.5 years have taught us a painful lesson as a continent that ICTs is not just a desirable thing, but a must-have. Because as our kids were getting out of school because they could not be in school due to COVID, most of our countries have embraced the digital transformation strategy in order to ensure that our ICT systems are integrated into our education, into our agriculture, into our health, so that then we can catch up with the rest of the world that have more developed systems in this regard.
Nous devons créer les bonnes conditions, notamment en promouvant des environnements propices à l'investissement pour briser les cycles d'exclusion et apporter la transformation numérique à tous, a déclaré le secrétaire général de l'UIT, Hulin Zhao. C'est l'enjeu, la révolution numérique qui se tient en Afrique doit être inclusive.
Finally, I will close by saying that this year has been a special year where, because of the pandemic, the ITU conferences, normally we have one every year. World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly was supposed to be in Hyderabad, India in 2020, but we had to postpone it and move it to Geneva in March this year. I had the distinct pleasure and honor to be the secretary of the plenary and the organizer of this assembly. And the international standards that we develop are a tool to enable development. So we encourage our developing countries to base their developmental agenda on international standards developed by the ITU. The second conference is the one we are attending now, the World Telecom Development Conference, WTDC in Kigali. And the third one will be in Romania, in Bucharest, in September. And during that time, I will not be staff of the ITU, but I will be on leave, a special leave, as Tunisia's candidate and the African Union candidate and the League of Arab States candidate for the post of TSB director. This is the post. In the ITU we have 3 bureaus: Standardization Bureau, Development Bureau, and Radio Communication Bureau. We also have a Secretary General and a Deputy Secretary General. So all of these positions will be up for elections. And Tunisia has put me forward with the support of the African Union and the League of Arab States to be their candidate for the TSB director. It will be the first time in the 157 years of history of the ITU to have an African lead the Standardization Bureau.
Faire du numérique un levier, un accélérateur du développement en Afrique, c'est l'enjeu pour le continent et c'était au cœur de cette conférence.